Hi, I'm Curious Vedant, and welcome to season 4 of my podcast. Today, my guest is Corina, who's the Director of Growth at Fortify Health, a public health organization that works to reduce anemia and neural tube defects at scale in India through wheat flour fortification. Hi, Corina. Welcome to my show.
Hi, Vedant. Lovely to be here. I'm a huge fan of your podcast, so I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, this will be fun. So, Karina, I'm curious to know, what does Fortify Health do?
Okay, so Fortify Health is a non-profit that works to increase the coverage of fortified wheat flour all over India with the aim to reduce micronutrient deficiency, primarily iron deficiency, anemia.
What is food fortification?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, food fortification is essentially the addition of very small doses of essential micronutrients to a staple food. So, a staple food, as you may know, is any food that is consumed regularly by a large number of people in a certain geography. So, in the Indian context, this could mean wheat flour, rice, salt, oil, milk, etc. And the aim of food fortification is to reduce micronutrient deficiency on a large scale without having to change the diets of people. So essentially, you don't have to convince people to eat something differently. You're just making the existing diet more nutritious.
When you buy like a bag of flour or something, how do you know whether it's fortified or not?
That's a really good question. So in India, actually, the government has started this campaign of adding a plus F logo on any fortified staple. So, for example, if you're buying fortified wheat flour from the market, producers are mandated, so it's compulsory for them to add a plus F logo on their packet. So that's how a consumer can tell whether the food is actually fortified or not.
But if it isn't there, how do you know?
So if it isn't there, then most likely the staple is not fortified. Another way you can check is you can flip to the back of any packet and see what the ingredients are in the nutrition table. And you might be able to tell if there is extra iron, calcium, or vitamin A in any product.
Oh, nice. Whenever my mom buys like wheat or any staple food like that, I'll check on the back to see if it's fortified.
Oh, wonderful.
Why do we need to fortify food? And what are the downsides of not doing it?
Yeah, so actually, food fortification is a complementary strategy. So there are different ways of reducing micronutrient deficiency, like anemia. One is for people to eat more diverse diets with more fruits and vegetables. So that is called dietary diversification. The second way is for people to consume supplements. For example, for anemia, it would be iron supplements. And then the third way is food fortification. But food fortification is considered a highly cost effective way to, to reduce anemia on a large scale. It costs a fraction of a rupee to do it for a kg, for a kilogram of wheat flour. So it's highly cost effective. Secondly, again, as I said, you don't have to change anyone's diets. You're just making the existing diet highly nutritious. And the third thing is it's actually quite easy to do by a manufacturer. So, for example, we work with these wheat flour mills, and in order for them to do fortification, the process is extremely simple. So they just have to add one simple microdoser, which is an equipment, to the end of their assembly line right before packaging, and add some micronutrients into it so that each batch of wheat flour is fortified. And all of these large factories have people who have done food technology or who have this kind of technical background. So it's pretty easy for them to fortify the food as well. So that's why I think it's a pretty effective strategy to improve public health on a large scale. And then obviously, the downsides of not doing it is that we're losing the opportunity to improve public health on a very large scale by not doing food fortification.
What are micronutrients?
Okay. So there are two kinds of nutrients, right? So one is macronutrient, which is basically macro means large, right? So macronutrients are nutrients that your body needs in larger amounts. So this can be carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Whereas micronutrients are nutrients that your body needs in smaller amounts, but they are extremely essential as well. So these are your vitamins and minerals. And micronutrient deficiency is actually called hidden hunger, because if someone doesn't have enough iron or enough vitamin C, you can't see it on their body at first glance. Whereas if someone does not have enough fat, protein, or carbohydrates, you can make out that they are malnourished. So that's the difference between macronutrient deficiency or malnutrition and micronutrient deficiency.
How does Fortify Health help increase fortification of food?
Okay, so Fortify Health basically has three approaches. The first and main approach that we have is that we provide support to these large wheat flour mills in India. So we provide them the equipment, the micronutrients, the tests that they require, and even the packaging and legal support that they require to fortify all of their wheat flour for free. So we provide all this support for free with the aim of increasing the coverage of fortified wheat flour in the market. That's our main approach. Apart from that, we have two other approaches. So the second approach is we work with government programs that are providing food to low income populations. And we work with programs in which they're currently providing wheat grain, and we help them to move away from wheat grain to fortified wheat flour. So that's our second approach. And then the third approach is evidence generation. So we work with different partners to publish what we have learned so far, to improve other organizations' efforts in fortification. We also will partner with a research institute or academic partner in the future to do some studies together, with the hope of helping the fortification ecosystem in general. So these are our three approaches.
Why can't the government just make fortification compulsory, and that everyone has to put it in their food, has to make their food fortified?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Actually, that is the goal, right, Vedant? We want the government to make food fortification mandatory. And it is mandatory for one staple food in India currently, which is salt. So salt is mandated to be fortified with iodine. However, for the other staples, the government is highly supportive of fortification, but has not made it mandatory. So for milk and oil, it is going to be made mandatory. But for wheat flour, it's not mandatory yet. It's voluntary, but highly encouraged. And that is because currently the mills are not sort of aware enough. The consumers are not aware enough. The premix is not available in large quantities. So our hope is to make the mills capable enough to do this on their own, and then sort of advocate for a mandate, which is basically making wheat flour fortification mandatory. So that is the end goal. And that is how a lot of countries have done it, actually. They've made wheat flour fortification mandatory. So our goal and our hope for the future, maybe in 10 years, is to live in a country, is to live in an India where wheat flour fortification is mandated by the government.
How did Fortify Health come about?
That's a really interesting question. I joined Fortify Health in 2020, but it was actually founded in 2018 by Nikita and Brendan, who were the co-founders of the organization. And they basically started out by creating a really long list of highly cost-effective and evidence-based public health ideas, which they could implement, right? So then they did an analysis of which idea would be the easiest to implement, which one would be the most cost effective and the most evidence based. And that's how, so they had considered a lot of ideas. So starting with food fortification to supplementation to policy advocacy. But then they zeroed in on iron fortification of wheat flour. And then they conducted some visits to different countries, India being one of them. And then once they visited these countries, they found that India has a large need, and there is a lot of scope to do to have a very large impact, a very large health impact by starting an organization in India. So they are both from the US and the UK respectively. So they came to India, they hired the first team members, they onboarded the first mill, and then they basically grew the organization from that point. So we started with just two of them, and currently we are around 23 team members and growing. So it's been a fantastic journey.
I hope Fortify Health expands like a lot in the future in in other places in the world.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, basically micronutrient deficiency is a huge issue around the world. So we'll try and our effort will be to have as large an impact as we can over the future.
And maybe when I grow up, I can help.
Yeah, absolutely. We need all hands on deck.
Where does Fortify Health operate currently?
So Fortify Health is based out of India. We work in 3 states in India, which are Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and West Bengal. However, we are going to start a UK office soon.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What can my listeners do to help Fortify Health?
Okay, that's a really good question. So firstly, if anyone wants to learn more about our work, you can check out our website. And Vedant, I'm sure you can link it in the description as well. It's www.fortifyhealth.global, where we post updates, and you can really learn all about our work. Apart from that, actually, we have the resources now to be able to grow very quickly. But we need advisors and connections with people who can help us and advise us on how to grow. So if any of your listeners feel like they can help out, they can write to us or message us on social media, and we'd love to connect with them. And then the second thing is we are hiring for quite a few positions. So if any of your listeners, feel like they're a good fit, or if they know someone who's a good fit, then it would be really helpful if they can connect us to, the right people, so that we can have a better and larger team.
Dear listeners, we'll put the link to Fortify Health in the show notes, and also please try to help Fortify Health by seeing if you can join, or anyone who is interested in joining.
Great. Thank you, Vedant.
Yeah, you're welcome. What made you choose to work on this issue? What did you want to be as a child?
That's a lovely question, the second one, but I'll start with the first one. So I've always been interested in working on public health issues, especially in India. So I started off working on sanitation and improving access to sanitation products in rural areas. But then when I came across Fortify Health, I met Nikita, who's the co-founder. I found that this is a fantastic idea. It's very innovative, and it's a really great way of improving nutrition on a large scale. And that's why I joined the organization. So that is the answer to your first question. And then the second one, what I wanted to be as a child. I actually wanted to be a bunch of different things. I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a doctor. And I wanted to be all three of them at the same time. So I thought I would divide my day in three parts. And I would, start my day off as a doctor. Then I would be a lawyer. And then I would be a social worker in the evening. What do you want to be?
I don't know. Right now, I want to be a car designer.
Oh, wonderful.
Overall, a vehicle designer, like designing airplanes and motorbikes and cars, mostly cars.
Lovely. Yeah, you must be super smart.
What are your hobbies?
So Vedant, my favorite hobby, I would say, is dance. I love sort of learning different dance forms. I'm not an expert in any dance form, but I've learned like Indian classical dance. I've learned waltz and salsa and hip hop. So if I can spend my free time on anything, it would be on dance. But then I also love traveling. So I love going on hikes, and I love going to the mountains or the forests, and spending some time in nature. So those would be my two favorite hobbies.
Yeah, those are really nice hobbies.
What are your hobbies?
Yeah, I like drumming and I'm starting to learn.
Oh, lovely.
I like building Legos.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I practice designing vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a big bag of Legos, and sometimes I just sit and play around.
Yeah, Legos are super fun.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn how to play like any percussion instrument, but drums have fascinated me. So I'd love to hear you someday.
Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you, Vedant. It was lovely chatting with you, and I look forward to catching all the other episodes you do with your guests.
Yeah. Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get updates on my upcoming episodes. To listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes, subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on curiousvedant.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant, and don't forget to rate and leave